U.S. Congress on yesterday that has to go to the Senate, when I began to explain to him how that not only will muzzle Christians and believers, it will muzzle the same people that are voting for these things that say that they're Christians, they're going to be muzzled too. When I began to explain to him not only history, I began to explain to him the law, and I began to explain to him the ramifications. At that point, he woke up. This pastor, all the things you spoke about, we have to wake up not only the nation, we have to wake up the state of Texas. It took 12 disciples, 12 ordinary men that were following Jesus Christ that changed the world. And this day and time, it's about 10 to 12 of us here. That's all it's going to take. It's going to take some people that's going to speak boldly. It's going to take some people that said, from Texas to the White House, we're going to speak. It's going to take some people that's going to say, I'm willing to lay it all down on the line. I'm willing to risk my life. This is what God's people are called to do. Risk it all. We know that the first person that was martyred was Stephen. Stephen risked his life in order to move forward with the beliefs of Jesus Christ. It's going to take some Stephens. The moment that they spread God's people out in the book of Acts, churches popped up all over the place. The alarm has been sounded. The alarm has been sounded. It's time for people in the state of Texas. It's time for people from the smallest towns to the largest towns, from the big cities to the small cities. It's time for them to get to a point where they say, we are believers. We will not let our nation go down the drain with us watching. This is our hour. My son, who's a teenager in high school, said, Dad, he said, this worries me. I said, son, what's going on? He said, Dad, I'm concerned. What about my children and my children's children? He said, we have a mess on our hands right now. What will it look like? I said, son, a few decades from now, we're going to have a major problem. We have to stand up. Everyone has a voice. Why not the believers? Everyone has a voice. Why not a Christian? Why not a person of faith? When I had a pastor that's on the other side of the aisle tell me, well, guess what? You can't force your religious beliefs and your religious thoughts on other people. Well, if there's a person that doesn't believe in anything, they're going to have their beliefs guiding them when they make legislation. Why can't I allow my beliefs to guide me when I make legislation? These are the things that we have to begin to tell not only the state of Texas, we have to let the nation know. If you take religion, and I'll simply say across the board, people of faith, H.R. 5 is going to be destructive to this nation if it's able to get through. But I tell you like this, and I taught world religion in the university. And one thing I asked my students week one of every class, I said, if you were to take organized religion out of every place in the world instantaneously, what would happen within 24 hours? Every single student said it would be chaos. Every single one said it would be chaos. Why would it be chaos? Because there's something to people of faith being able to bring stability into this nation. There's something about being able to look at this nation, and including the state of Texas. If you look at our government right now, you do not have a government set up without looking at biblical principles. When we talk about our different branches of government, they are mirroring what's taking place when it comes down to our people of faith and comes down to the Bible. When we think about the first King Saul, when we think about the second King David, when we think about the third King, his son Solomon, when we think about those kings, those were people of faith that were in government. And right now, those same people of faith have affected not only the government in the state of Texas, but from state to state. We have voices. It's time for Christians to stop cowering. It's time for Christians to stop being afraid. It's time for Christians to be bold. The alarms have sounded. If alarms sound in your homes right now, no one's going to stop and say, well, I don't think I should wake everyone up. You're going to grab everyone out of your home and say, it's time to get out of here. The alarm has sounded. If we stay in here, we're going to meet our own detriment. We have to listen right now. God is sounding alarms. We've driven up here from Selma, Texas. The alarms have sounded. Pastor, I know you've probably come even further. The alarms have sounded. Naomi, you're always on the front lines. Walter's crossing the state. The alarms have sounded. It's going to take a few of us. That's all it takes. One match can burn down a forest. One match can burn down a forest. It's going to take the fire from one believer to ignite what's taking place in Texas, to ignite what needs to take place in the nation. Just one of us that's bold enough. I had someone ask me, said, well, how is it that you're going to be able to do this? How are you going to be able to do this alone? I said, I'm not going to do it alone because there are some other believers that are out there. The army, come on for just a moment. The army that David took over, that army was already in existence up on the Saul, who he was able to take over from. So guess what happened? It wasn't that we don't have an army, but God simply showed us through David that we need a leader to lead that army. We need someone to be raised up to lead that army. And right now, God is calling on people like you and I. All it takes, as the pastor says, just a few of us, 300 that's willing to say, God, I hear you. I'm willing to listen to you. I'm willing to lay it all out on the line for you. That's all that it's going to take. And when we do that, this nation will change, the state of Texas will change, and we have to begin to put like-minded people in these seats from our local elections. We're talking about school boards, school districts. We're talking about city councils. That's where the most change is going to take place. We're talking about up here in this state house, in this Capitol. We're talking about in Washington, D.C. When we begin to realize our voices are strong and powerful, when we begin to send people that are like-minded to Washington and up here to this state Capitol, that's when we're going to begin to see change. When we begin to organize people and tell them, guess what? It may be a few of us, but all we need to do is get a few more, and we can begin to vote one representative at a time out and put the right ones in. That's when they're going to hear us, because God is speaking. We have to make sure we're nothing but instruments of His will. Let Him drive us to Austin to speak as the pastor has done. Let Him drive us up to Washington to speak as I will do. Let Him drive us to use social media that's trying to silence us to speak even louder. God is at work right now. We have a choice right now. Pastor, you've already talked about it. We have a choice right now. We can hear Him and act on it, or we can be silent and watch our own demise. I choose to speak. I choose to speak, and I choose to speak loudly. I choose to hear the Lord and act upon His word. I choose to do it not only today, but I choose to do it till the end of time, because we know in the end He wins. In the end He wins. To God be the glory. On this Capitol. God bless you all.